With regards to how the central bank communicates with the public at large, I feel like the central banks in most of the time are quite misunderstood, because a lot of people that consume the information, especially if you're not very aware if you're not very aware of the economic factors and the financial factors, you kind of like miss the point. So it makes the market or the public consumer react in a negative way. So I think one of the challenges that are facing is how they communicate and how the information is communicated. So therefore, I feel like that's one area that they need to pay more attention to.
I'm going to focus on two pressing issues that are really bread and butter of central banking. The first is inflation, and that's like the core objective of most central banks, price stability. And it's really about what are the determinants of persistent inflation. And, you know, we've seen in the UK how stubbornly high inflation has been. The second pressing issue, I guess, is relating to financial stability, which is another core objective of central banks. And I guess more specifically, and this is, I guess, also a shameless plug for my own research, which is how do policies that try and attempt to solve the price stability issue affect financial stability? And I guess in my own research, what I've shown is raising interest rates to kind of bring down prices and meet your price stability issue can actually harm bank leverage and make meeting your financial stability objective a bit more difficult.
They're concerned about the impact that their policies might be having on the financial system. The purpose of contractionary monetary policy is to actually slow the economy and to reduce bank lending. But in doing that, what you do is you make some of the loans that the banks have outstanding lower quality, and the banks have to be concerned about potential defaults and losses that they might face. The question is whether or not they're sufficiently resilient to be able to withstand what has now been quite a significant tightening of policy. So on that, they're also concerned about financial stability policy.
The trade-off between fighting inflation and circumventing an economic downturn is the most pressing issue for central banks today.
We've been talking a lot as well in the conference about climate change, and I think that's a testament of the relevance of this aspect for central banks. And in particular, I think I consider two key aspects related to climate change and environmental issues relevant from the point of view of central banks. One is the data analysis and the way data should be collected and constructed and provided across all the different entities that may be affected by climate change. And second is the way central banks are currently using the data to become elements that will be used for their risk assessment analysis. So these to me are things that are obviously on the agenda for central banks. It's still very difficult to understand which data you need to use and how you can actually integrate into your risk analysis.
I think the crucial issue is to try to understand to what extent central bank have to keep raising rates, to what extent central bank have to keep rates high for long, and that kind of questions I think are the key questions now that are related indeed to the extent to which monetary policy is effective and when monetary policy is effective. How long does it take for monetary policy to be effective?